Connor, tell me a little bit about your impact on the Founding Voice and what you think of the way that this website is moving so far.
Well, we really influence each other because, again, they are adults and we are teenagers, so it is sort of like a perfect blend. And they've had more experience than us. You know, they might know more about politics, and at the same time, we teach them stuff maybe they don't know about history, such as like Jayson's done the history of progressivism, and I do each of the presidents. So it's really beneficial for both of us.
Let's talk, if you guys don't mind, let's talk a little bit about meeting Glenn Beck, because in my mind, this is quite an event, and you guys should be very proud. Tell me a little bit about how this came about and what it was like to get on the Glenn Beck Show.
Well, being on Glenn Beck was truly a amazing experience. It was really like no other, and it's still today. You know, it's almost like surreal. I mean, I can't speak for Connor here, but it seems, you know, almost like it never happened. It almost seems too good to be, and it was, you know, when the funny thing is when we were waiting to go on in the green room. For Glenn Beck, we originally thought that we were just going to be in the audience and, you know, maybe raise our hand a few times to answer a few questions. And literally about 20 minutes before they started recording, the producer came out into the green room and said that Glenn wanted us to do present something on the blackboards. And Connor and I, you know, started freaking out a little bit, but we made it work, and it turned out to be a really amazing thing.
It was, and it was a very unexpected moment. We were not expecting at all to be. We thought we were just going to be part of the audience, and we ended up actually writing on his blackboard and basically teaching a lesson of our own almost.
Wow.
And it was a great experience, and it went by so quickly. I mean, I think it's been almost exactly a year since we were on, and it was great. And you know, for anyone who watches him, to actually be on the show is really amazing, because you learn so much from him, but he's also willing to learn so much from you, the audience.
Now, tell me what it was like meeting him. Is he down to earth, as one might expect?
Absolutely. You know, one of the things that is important to keep in mind is that as much as you like or dislike Glenn Beck, it's important to look at the personalities of people too. Glenn Beck, you know, we saw him behind the scenes. We talked to him off camera, and he is. You're absolutely right. He's very down to earth. He's just an overall nice guy. You know, you could tell the whole audience was nervous, and he spoke in a way when we were off camera that kind of calmed everyone's nerves and just made everyone much more comfortable. He's a very nice guy behind camera and on camera for that matter.
So when you delivered your message, when you went through whatever you did with the chalkboard, and then you had your conversation and they broke for commercial, however it went, what was it like at the conclusion of that? Were you kind of like spinning?
Well, again, as we said, it really was surreal, because in an hour, plus the commercial breaks, it just sped by. I mean,
Yeah.
It's like we were only on for about 5 minutes, but that 5 minutes seemed to have, you know, gone on for like 20 minutes, because that's how nervous we were. But it was great, and afterwards, we really did feel good, even though, you know, we couldn't see ourselves. It was taped. We wouldn't see it until the next week, but we felt good. You know, we still felt a little nervous, and we still couldn't believe that we actually were on his show, not just part of the audience. It was fantastic.
Yeah, we had reserved seats for us too, and actually before we did our lessons on the chalkboard, he played a little montage of clips from our show for his audience, which was really cool. We didn't know they were going to do that either, and it was just amazing that Glenn Beck was actually taking an interest in what we were doing.
Did you find yourself considering the fact that that Glenn Beck is so comfortable in front of that camera, and perhaps the work that it takes to get to that point where you can stand in front of the camera, you can make your points and elaborate, discuss, whatever it is that Glenn Beck does. I don't know. To me, being in front of the camera is altogether different than what I do, which is in front of a microphone, and I don't have to worry with makeup or lights or cameras or any of that. It's pretty fascinating that someone can get so comfortable in front of a camera that they're just talking the same way that you and I are now.
Well, yeah, and he really is so natural at it. He's really just like a teacher with his class. That's what it's like. It's like a bunch of cameras, and he's just teaching a class. We were not expecting it, so we were nervous to be in front of that camera.
Yeah.
Even on our own show, we still got to make sure we're relaxed and all set. We have everything. But this was different because, Beck has over 1 million viewers. We don't have nearly as much as him.
Well, since we're talking about Beck, maybe we should touch on the announcement from about a week ago that Glenn Beck is leaving Fox News. And Jayson, first, why don't you give me your thoughts on that?
At first, I'm not going to lie, I was very, very disappointed to hear the news. I was kind of like, wait, where are you going? Because, again, the 2012 elections are coming up, and this is a critical point in America.
Yeah.
And I personally believe that we need him. We need his opinions, and we need him reaching out to the people. And I thought that, without him, it would potentially be pretty bad in America. People would start losing sight of everything that he's taught us, which is very valuable information. So I was pretty upset, but the next day I was listening to him on the radio show, and he had a caller, and I think that he is there's been rumors that he might be starting his own network, something like that. I think he is going to move on to bigger and better things. He had a caller on, and he was just saying over and over again, "Trust me with this. Trust me with this." So I'm upset that he's leaving, but I'm at the same time very confident and at what he's planning on doing.
Yeah, I was very surprised myself because, as Jayson said, 2012 coming up. I mean, I didn't think he would miss that for anything. I guess I don't know. Maybe I really do think though that Glenn Beck is so powerful in a way, and he really, I think whatever he does, he will be successful at. Really, I do, because the guy is very influential to millions of Americans and people outside the country. So I think if he does do his own network, or if he does just stick to the internet, I think he'll be fine. Even though I really was surprised by this news.
I think there's two things that people need to realize as they're watching Glenn Beck and they hear the announcement that Glenn Beck is leaving Fox News. One, you're correct. Glenn Beck has an enormous amount of political power. He's the one, basically, he's the one behind the 9/12 protest in, 2009? Mm-hmm. And then he's the one behind the Glenn Beck Restoring Honor rally. Yep. And he got a lot of people to show up in Washington, D.C. On the other hand, and I think this is just me talking, my opinion, I think that it's important for people to realize that we are not dependent on any one commentator. We have on television Glenn Beck, Bill O'Reilly. A lot of people think that you shouldn't listen to Bill O'Reilly because he's kind of a moderate, but I think that his viewpoint is very important because we need to be aware of what moderates are thinking. And then you have on the radio Rush Limbaugh, Mark Levin, Laura Ingraham. The list goes on, and there are all these people with all this great commentary, and we should be soaking all of it in and distilling it and deciding what about those things that we agree with, what about what those people said we disagree with. And Glenn Beck, like anybody else, there are things that he said during for instance, just a minute here, let me think how this went. The firefighters from the city let a house burn down because that homeowner in a rural community had not paid a certain fee. The homeowner said it was by accident. In any case, the firefighters stood there watching the house burn and did nothing. And Glenn Beck said that that was pure conservatism at work. I'm paraphrasing. And I disagreed with him on that. That doesn't mean that everything else Glenn Beck said should be thrown out the window. But there's going to be issues where we disagree and issues where we agree. But people need to realize that Glenn Beck is not the only one who can give them information that helps them to save this country.
Absolutely. And another thing that we believe is that we're trying to get our audience, the youth, to not only listen to the mainstream media, not only listen to the news and get their information from it, but also just to take it upon themselves. We spoke. Me and Connor spoke at a middle school last Monday, and one of the things that we talked about was questioning with boldness, as Thomas Jefferson said. Mm-hmm. And what we're really trying to get them to do is, get the information on their own, teach themselves, and take it upon themselves to get this information. And that's something that we've always thought was very, very important.
Yeah, as Jayson said, we did teach that. It's almost like a class at the middle school, basically just about the Constitution and the Founding Fathers. And I just tell people to read. I do. I say you really don't need to watch the television at all. All you have to do is read. Now, does it require a lot of reading? Well, yeah, it depends what you want to read about. I mean, American history books, anyone you pick up, just about is really going to be informative and great, and you can learn so much. You can learn a whole lot picking up the Declaration and the Constitution in a little book. Like I have a little book that carries the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence, and if you read those, you've just learned a ton about American history.
The Jimmy Z Show.